Hello everyone, this is part 36 of What If Naruto Was the Devil Ninja, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. After leaving the hotel, Naruto and his party hurried toward Kyoto Station. They planned on taking the next bus to Niju Castle from there. Naruto was no longer wearing his school uniform. The black pants he had donned rustled as he moved, while white bandages wrapped around his calves before disappearing into his custom-made shinobi sandals. His sleeveless shirt was orange. The ninja pouch attached to a belt at his waist jingled as he moved swiftly in front of the others. Ise, Saji, and Kiba were still in their school uniforms, unlike him, but that was likely because they didn't have any official battle attire. Asia was wearing her black and white habit from her days as a nun, while Irina was dressed in the skin-tight black outfit of the church. Rosweiss had likewise not changed out of her business suit, which she wore when teaching. It didn't take more than 15 minutes to reach the station. They stood by the bus stop, waiting for the bus to arrive, but just as Naruto began to grow impatient, someone suddenly collided with his back. Naruto-san, I am coming too. Turning around, Naruto found himself staring down into the determined eyes of Kanu, once again dressed in her priestess clothes. After the battle on the Togetsuko, Kanu had gone back to the inner capital. He had assumed she would be staying there until the situation blew over. However, it looked like the girl had other plans. Naruto placed his hand on her head and rubbed it. Are you sure you want to come with us? This is going to be incredibly dangerous. Shaking her head, Kanu clung to him, her hold on his waist tightening. I want to rescue my mother, too. I don't want to be the only one not doing something. I can't take the idea of just sitting around while everyone else does what they can to save her. Naruto squirmed in discomfort as the girl's chin ground against his ribs. Please, I'm begging you, take me with you. While he wasn't sure how other people might respond to this girl, Naruto's first inclination was to tell her she could come. Kanu wanted to save her mom. Far be it from him to stop a girl determined to save her mother. That said, he also knew that all of the higher-ups wanted Kanu to remain out of harm's way. What do you guys think? He asked, looking at the members of his part. Can we take her along? I think we should take her with us, Asia said, though her tone was uncertain. That girl wants to save her mother, right? Asked Irina. I understand how she feels. We should let her help out. Saji crossed his arms. Don't look at me. I'm just following orders. I'll go with whatever you decide, Sensei, Ise added. You're the leader here, Kiba said. If you decide to take her with us, we'll of course comply with your request. Naruto nodded at everyone's answers, which were about what he had expected, and then he looked at Rosweiss. She was a teacher, so she technically had some level of authority over him. However, he was the leader of this mission. Rosweiss gazed at him for several seconds before sighing. I do not believe bringing such a young girl is a good idea, but if that is what you want, then I'll do my best to help you keep her safe. Thank you. Smiling in Grodd, Naruto glanced back down at Kanu. You heard them. You can come with us. Ah, really? Asked Kanu, her eyes wide and hopeful. Really. However, make sure you stay with me. Don't leave my side for even a second, okay? As Kanu nodded along, her head bobbing so emphatically she looked like those bobbleheads on car dashboards, Naruto wondered if maybe he was too soft. Oh, well, it wasn't like it mattered. He wanted to respect Kanu's feelings and was willing to take full responsibility for her well-being. Everything would turn out fine. He was sure of it. Just as Naruto made this decision, a light mist appeared from underneath their feet. In that same moment, a strange feeling permeated his entire body. He recognized what was happening. This is, Ise's eyes widened. Dimension lost. Kiba shouted. A bright light enveloped everyone. Naruto thought he heard screaming, but all the noises seemed to have been drowned out. Unsure of what else to do, and wanting to protect the person near him, he held tightly onto Kanu. When the light s down, Naruto opened his eyes to discover that he was no longer standing by the bus stop at Kyoto Station. He was inside of a room with blue carpet that had silver floral designs. The room was shaped kind of like a donut, with the outer wall being made almost entirely of glass. A glance out the glass revealed the skyline of Kyoto. What is? This is Kyoto Tower. Kanu declared in shock. It certainly seems that way. Naruto, Irina, and Kiba had been planning to visit Kyoto Tower with Issei and the others on their last day. It looked like he was visiting a day early. However, I do not believe this is the real Kyoto Tower, Naruto declared. I'm pretty sure we were just transferred to an alternate dimension with dimension lost. Kanu was staring out the window. Her eyes were wider than he'd ever seen them. He could only imagine the kind of shock she must have been feeling right now. Then doesn't that mean that Sacred Gear user created an exact replica of Kyoto? How much power do those hero faction people have? Naruto glanced at the world created using Dimension Lost. It appeared Georg couldn't completely replicate all of Kyoto, as a thick layer of mist surrounded much of the city, blocking it from view. Even so, there was more than enough city to see. This dimension must have been at least several square kilometers in size. I guess that just goes to show you how dangerous Georg really is. As he said that, Naruto's smartphone rang, prompting him to look at it. The caller was Kiba. He accepted the call and held the phone to his ear. Kiba, I'm guessing you were also transferred into this alternate dimension as well. Where are you right now? I'm at the Kyoto Imperial Palace with Rosweiss and Saji. Where did you get sent? Kanu and I are on top of Kyoto Tower. It seems this dimension has recreated a good portion of Kyoto with Niju Castle at its center. I guess that goes to show you how powerful these people are. This dimension is about the same size as a rating game battleground. These people are definitely dangerous. Let's meet up at Niju Castle. That's where the hero faction is anyway. I understand. Have you contacted Aiz and the others? Not yet. I'll do that right now. After hanging up, Naruto called Issei first. It turned out Issei, Irina, and Asia were together, which was a huge relief. Those two would be able to protect Asia, who didn't have any combat capabilities. He told them that everyone was going to meet at Niju Castle. Rosweiss called him after he finished his call with Issei. She said that Kiba had tried getting in touch with Azazel, but they couldn't reach him. It appeared Azazel had not been summoned to this dimension. According to her, there was some kind of barrier or spell surrounding this dimension, which prevented any contact with the outside world. However, that was only for contact with people outside of the dimension. People inside could still communicate just fine. Naruto explained all this to Kanu as they descended the Kyoto Tower. The elevators in this dimension worked just fine. He wondered if that was also thanks to Georg's power as a Sacred Gear user. I wonder why they are allowing us to communicate with each other inside of the barrier, she murmured. It could be they don't have a spell capable of interfering with communication inside of this dimension, Naruto said. However, I think the more likely case is they don't have a spell that can discriminate between our communications and theirs. I suspect we'll run into several Sacred Gear users as we make our way to Niju Castle. That being the case, Cao Cao will definitely want to keep a communication line open so he can track our progress. That does make sense, Kanu said with a frown as the elevator stopped moving and the door slid open. As they stepped outside, Naruto turned to face Kanu and knelt so they were eye level. Kanu, I want you to stay by my side and don't leave no matter what. I am going to protect you and save your mother at the same time. After he finished speaking, Kanu's face turned a burning shade of fire truck red. Door. So cute. Naruto would have normally squealed and began petting Kanu's ears after seeing such an adorable display. It was too bad now wasn't the time. They stepped outside and began walking down the street. Before they even got a dozen meters from Kyoto Tower, Naruto paused as he sensed a powerful hostile intent aimed at them. Kanu must have also felt it because she froze. Granted only a moment to react, Naruto lifted Kanu into a princess carry and leapt back as several dozen spears nearly impaled them. The spears were black as night. Jutting from the ground, Naruto realized they were composed of shadows. It reminded him of Shikamaru's shadow jutsu. Naruto. Hold on to me and don't let go, Naruto ordered Kanu as he began leaping back again. Several more spears flew from the ground and tried to impale them, but he moved deftly across the street to avoid them. He expected the spears to disappear at some point, but instead they wavered and wreathed like living creatures before transforming into grotesque monsters. They had 2 legs and 2 arms, but their posture was stooped, and their arms were almost as long as their legs. Each arm also ended in a set of wicked-looking claws. What sort of sacred gear is this? Naruto was not well versed in sacred gears. He only knew of the 13 Longinus, which he had deemed the biggest threats. This clearly wasn't a Longinus. With Kanu still in his arms, Naruto darted forward and channeled wind chakra into his legs. The swirling chakra was so thick it became visible. Spinning around, Naruto leapt into the air and through the enemies with powerful kicks. Or that was his intention. A frown crossed his face as his attacks were absorbed by the shadow monsters. So these things could absorb attacks. It looked like even his chakra was being absorbed into these monsters. Landing on the ground, Naruto sensed movement behind him and swerved to the side. Just then, a massive portal made of shadows opened behind him and the wind chakra he'd used to attack was launched back at him. It missed. That said, just seeing his own attack being reflected back at him was fairly shocking. It seems we've run into a troublesome opponent, Naruto murmured. What should we do? Asked Kanu. It looks like this sacred gear can absorb and reflect attacks as well as control shadows. Naruto leapt into the air as several more spears appeared out of the ground and tried to skewer them. Landing on a wall, he channeled chakra into his feet and hung there. What's more, the wielder is hiding somewhere. He kicked off the wall as several shadow hands appeared and tried to grab him. If we want to win, we have to find the user. How do we do that? Naruto grinned. Simple. We force him to reveal himself. Shadow clone jutsu. Even though he'd been losing power, Naruto still had plenty of chakra to spare, and so over 100 Narutos quickly appeared in a large cloud of smoke. About half of those Narutos transformed themselves into Kanu. The Narutos who still looked like Naruto each picked up a K-clone and ran off. Meanwhile, the real Naruto went through another series of hand seals. Toten Jutsu. A layer of chakra coated Naruto and Kanu from head to toe. While the girl in his arms shivered at the feeling, Naruto was used to it. He allowed the jutsu to do its thing. When he looked down, the girl in his arms, along with his arms, were completely invisible even to his own eyes. I can't see you, Kanu muttered in shock. This is a transparency jutsu that my sensei invented, Naruto said, speaking in a hushed whisper. It makes the user completely invisible. That sounds useful, Kanu said, also lowering her voice to a whisper. It is. My sensei used to use this jutsu when he was spying. Naruto paused. He also used it to peep on women. Your sensei sounds disgusting. I hope you don't peep on women with this technique. Naruto could actually hear Kanu's nose wrinkling. Naruto shook his head even though he knew Kanu couldn't see it. I don't. I have no need to peep on women. While he let Kanu ponder those words, Naruto began creeping through the streets of Kyoto. All around him, his clones were leaping around and presenting nearly impossible to hit targets. Spears would shoot from the ground only to miss. Monsters would emerge from the shadows but find their enemies no longer within reach. Even if these clones only had 100th of his chakra, it was more than enough to help them keep from being immediately dispelled. What are we doing? Asked Kanu. We need to find the sacred gear user, Naruto said. However, I can't do that if I'm busy dodging attacks. I'm using the clones to keep him distracted. Meanwhile, you and me are going to search for him under this invisibility jutsu. Oh, that's smart. Naruto could not help but grin. Right. While his clones kept the sacred gear user distracted, Naruto began his search. He didn't think the user was far. Sacred gears like this normally had a limited range. Kiba could not create swords a certain distance from his body, though Naruto knew his friend was trying to extend that range. He was going under the assumption that this power was similar. That meant the sacred gear user had to be close. Just as Naruto suspected, the person controlling the shadows was close. He was hiding inside of a souvenir shop that sold 1/6 scale models of the various national sites. Pondering whether or not he should set Kanu down for a moment, he ultimately decided not to. She would become visible again if he did. Naruto used his stealth skills to sneak into the shop undetected. The person controlling the shadows was a young man with black hair tied into a bun who wore sunglasses and a gakuran, a black school uniform worn by boys during the fall. He was staring out the window with a frustrated look on his face. Naruto smiled. Undoubtedly, the numerous Naruto clones and his inability to K them was frustrating him to no end. Naruto snuck up behind the boy and launched a kick at his head. Perhaps the boy just had amazing perceptions, or maybe he sensed the ill intent, but in either case, the sacred gear user quickly melted into the shadows and disappeared. Naruto's kick apart the window instead. As Naruto dropped the transparency jutsu, seeing no more points since he'd been discovered, his opponent appeared from another shadow several meters away. I see you managed to find me, he said with a frown. I had been hoping to take you out quickly, but it is just as Lord Cao said. You are not an opponent I can underestimate. And who the hell are you? Asked Naruto. My name is Conla, he answered readily enough. What an upstanding guy. I am the wielder of Night Reflection. I believe you'll find my sacred gear to be most troublesome. It's great against opponents like you. Is that right? Asked Naruto before launching a wind blade from his foot. Once more, the man disappeared into a shadow at the floor, avoiding his attack. The wind blade continued on and through several dozen shelves and even the wall of this building. He disappeared. Kanu said in shock. It looks like he can walk between shadows. What an annoying ability. Naruto leapt onto the ceiling as several shadows attacked him from below. A number had transformed into hands that tried to wrap around him, while others had become spears that tried to L straight through his body. He wove around the spears while keeping a tight grip on Kanu so she wouldn't fall. The young yokai, to her credit, did not utter a single scream as she clung to him. TCH. It seems you are quite nimble, Conla said. I'm so glad you noticed, Naruto shot back in a voice filled with mock cheer. However, it doesn't matter how nimble you are. No one can escape from my technique. Wrong. Naruto landed on the ground, holding Kanu with one arm, reached into his pouch and pulled out a flash bomb. I've already figured out the weakness of your technique. Close your eyes, Kanu. Naruto didn't wait for the man to reply as he closed his eyes and threw the flash bomb against the floor. An explosion of light filled the room. While his eyes were closed and therefore he couldn't see what was happening, Naruto knew the light was chasing the shadows away. It also seemed like Conla hadn't closed his eyes. A smile crossed his face as he listened to the man's screams. Rushing toward the screams, Naruto leapt into the air and finally felt his foot connect with something solid. The dull impact reverberated along his leg. As Naruto landed on the ground, he opened his eyes to find Conla had flown several meters back and into the wall. Despite being hit quite hard, the high schooler was still struggling to stand up. Damn, you! Conla wiped some bee trickling down his mouth, which was set into an angry snarl. How did you figure out that weakness? Naruto snorted. Oh, please. It's obvious. Your power is to manipulate shadows. If there are no shadows for you to manipulate, then your powers are useless. Anyone with a brain would realize that. Times like this made Naruto regret being a devil. Had he been an angel, he could have created a powerful light source using light magic and chased all the shadows away. He almost sighed. There was no use crying over spilled milk. Conla clicked his tongue. I didn't want to use this power yet, but it seems you've left me with no choice. Balance break. A series of loud rustling sounds echoed around him as the man's presence filled the small shop. There was an almost physical pressure pushing down on Naruto. Well, he said it was a pressure, but it wasn't very strong. In either event, all of the shadows in the area, the ones under the man's feet, the ones near the shelves and racks, were squirming as they gathered beneath him. Starting from his feet, the shadows crawled up the man's body, wrapping themselves around him before taking shape. Clawed boots clacked against the ground. Greaves and gauntlets appeared along his shin and arms. AC covered his torso. Lastly, a sleek helmet appeared around the man's head, covering his entire face from view. While Kanu stared at the shadow-clad figure in fright, Naruto tilted his head. So, this is your balance breaker. That's right. This balance breaker was created after witnessing the power of the Sekiro Ote. I remember seeing his armor in the rating games that Lord Cao made us watch, and I kept thinking about how it would be nice to have armor like that, to have defensive capabilities like that. This balance breaker was created from that desire. The armor covering Conla squirmed and writhed as though it were alive. All of his face was covered except for a pair of thin S that revealed the man's sharp eyes, which glared at him with a sense of arrogance. Naruto took a step forward, but then he was forced to leap back when spears appeared out of the ground. Kanu screamed in shock. Perhaps she had expected Conla to be incapable of using more shadows once in his balance breaker. Swerving to the left, Naruto avoided more spears as he changed direction, charging toward Conla. Left, right, left, left. Naruto could almost sense the spears as they appeared all around him, trying to impale him and Kanu, but he deftly avoided everything thrown at him and reached his enemy in record time. Whoosh! Naruto tried to launch a powerful kick at Conla's midsection. He blinked when his leg passed right through the man's body, which scattered like smoke. His foot hit the ground and he stumbled forward. Quickly recovering, Naruto spun around and attacked again, but just like before, his attack went right through the man. He narrowed his eyes. Not only were his attacks phasing through Conla like his enemy wasn't there, but he couldn't feel any resistance. It was as if Conla himself had become a shadow. Shikamaru would be jealous of this guy's power. I wouldn't bother attacking me, Conla mocked Naruto. It's useless. This armor renders all attacks ineffective. Leaping back, Naruto filled his lungs with oxygen and chakra, molded it, and then spat out several balls of wind that hurtled through the air. They struck Conla, who made no move to dodge. The wind spheres disappeared into the man's body. Barely a second later, the spheres that Naruto had launched at Conla were suddenly hurtling toward him from various shadows inside of the shop. He avoided them quickly. Swerving, ducking, dodging, and weaving, Naruto didn't let a single sphere hit him or Kanu. I see. That armor of yours has the same abilities as your regular sacred gear. That's right, Conla crowed. Physical attacks don't work on me, and I can absorb all of your spells and send them back at you. What's more, I can still control the shadows in the area. As he spoke, several shadows emerged from the ground. The shadow monsters were bipedal, but their arms looked like blades instead of regular hands, and they quickly attacked Naruto, who was forced to move to avoid him and Kanu being skewered. As Naruto did his best to avoid the shadow monsters, Kanu held out her hands and created a tiny fireball between her palms. She threw it at Conla. However, the man made no effort to dodge. He reached out and caught the fox fire in his hand, and then clenched it into a fist, smothering the fire. What was that, little fox princess? Were you trying to attack me with fox fire? Ha! This level of heat cannot work against me. It's not nearly hot enough. Damn it, Kanu muttered in dejection. Not hot enough. As he continued evading the shadow monsters, Naruto thought about the man's words. It sounded like he could still feel heat despite wearing that armor. That meant he was susceptible to most forms of energy, aka heat and cold. Of course, Naruto did not have any attacks that generated heat or coldness. That said, it sounded like he was still affected in some manner by things outside of his armor. Nodding, Naruto switched from carrying Kanu like a princess to carrying her with one arm. He held the girl close. As he continued evading attacks and monsters, he formed a series of seals with only one hand. Futon, Shinku Kinko, Wind Release, Vacuum Vault. Having thought about what he wanted, Naruto created a new technique on the spot. There was no visible difference between before Naruto unleashed his technique and now. There was no distortion of the atmosphere, no strange singularities, or anything that would indicate a jutsu had been used, unless someone were to look at Conla. The sacred gear user held his hands to his tea as though he was being strangled and tried to suck in oxygen, but nothing happened. Naruto watched with an impassive look as the man fell to the floor. Oddly enough, no sound could be heard. There was no dull thump as the man hit the ground, landing on his hands and knees. 1 second passed. 2 seconds. 5. 30. When a full minute had passed in utter silence, Conla slumped forward and went still. Naruto dispelled his technique. What just happened? Asked Kanu, still in his arms as Naruto walked up to the man. I realized as we were battling that even though my attacks go through him, he is still affected by things that happen outside of his armor. Heat and cold obviously affect him. Naruto flipped the man over with his foot. He was breathing, but it was very shallow. Either way, it looked like he would live. I figured he would also be affected by a lack of oxygen. The jutsu I just used creates a vacuum that robs a specific area of oxygen. Kanu's eyes widened. I get it. You strangled him to unconsciousness by depriving him of oxygen. That's it exactly. Naruto nodded. Anyway, hold on tight. We're going to save your mother now. Yes. As Kanu wrapped her arms around his Naruto left the souvenir shop and launched himself into an all-out sprint. His destination was Niju Castle. Devil Ninja. Phew. I think that's the last of them. Issei wiped the sweat from his forehead, and then looked back at Asia and Irina. The two of them were standing side by side. Irina had created a light sword that she had used to protect Asia, but upon seeing that all of their enemies had been defeated, she relaxed. They had been ambushed on their way to Niju Castle by two sacred gear users, Flame Shake and Freezing Archaeopteryx. Flame Shake had been fairly easy to deal with, but the wielder of Freezing Archaeopteryx had been trouble. The man had kept at a distance, hiding away, and using his sacred gear to create an army of ice golems. It had taken a lot longer than expected to defeat him. It doesn't look like there are any more enemies, Irina said. I think it's safe to move. Issei nodded. Right, let's get going. They moved at a quick trot, traveling through the subway station, which was where they had been dumped after being sent to this dimension. Issei probably could have gone faster, but he was likely being considerate toward Asia. I may not have another chance. Irina bit her lip as she jogged up to Issei, who was already in his Welsh dragon armor. Eyes, can I ask a question? What is it? Issei looked at her, and Irina took a deep breath before plowing forward. That is your dream still to become a harem king? That's right. Issei nodded without even the slightest hesitation, but then, a strange smile came over his face. But I can't focus on that right now. Oh. Irina blinked in surprise. Why not? Issei didn't say anything for a moment. He stared straight ahead. Irina wondered if she might have said something wrong, but then, speaking slowly, he said, it's because of Akeno-sama. What about Akeno? I couldn't stop her from leaving me and Asia, but I still love her. Issei's admittance was accompanied by a pained grimace. I'm probably being selfish, but I want to convince her to come back to us. I haven't given up on her. And I don't think she's given up on us, either. That's why, until I can have a real and proper heart-to-heart with her, until I can make her realize that she still has a place here, I don't think it would be right if I tried to create a harem. I need to prove to Akeno-sama that I'm serious about her. A soft voice interjected here, and Issei and Irina turned to Asia, who was running beside them. I am also with Ai-san on this. I want Akeno-sama to come back to us. Ai-san and I promised to do our best. Irina didn't let Issei know how shaken she was by his words. This wasn't quite like the young man she'd come to know after returning to Japan, the perverted boy who thought only about B. Hidden inside of him was a devotion and caring that bordered on fanatical. On the one hand, she was happy to see that, even though he was a pervert who loved B, he still remained devoted toward Akeno. On the other hand, if he didn't plan on letting anyone else join them. What am I thinking? A frown marred her face as she realized where her thoughts were going. She'd been thinking about joining them, about becoming a part of their polyamorous relationship. That went against her religion. It was wrong. Yet, at the same time, a part of her really had been hoping Issei would be receptive to the idea. Until Akeno returns, Ais won't even try creating a harem. She didn't know what to think, but part of her was beginning to realize that even if she joined Issei and Asia in their relationship, she would be playing second fiddle to Akeno. No, she would be playing third fiddle to Akeno and Asia. She wasn't going to be Issei's number one. Could she even feel welcome when it seemed like Asia and Issei were already so devoted to Akeno that they wouldn't allow another woman in without her? She didn't know. She didn't think she could. A small place within her heart felt like it was slowly unraveling. Devil Ninja. Naruto and Kanu didn't run into any more enemies after defeating Conla. They traveled quickly through this fake Kyoto and made it to Niju Castle, arriving at the massive front gate. Made of wood and coated with intricate motifs crafted from gold leaf, the main gate that led into Niju Castle was something even Naruto, who'd seen plenty of structures like this in his old world, couldn't help but admire. Kiba, Saji, and Rosweiss were already there. Kiba was leaning against the wall, his arms crossed as he relaxed. Saji was sitting on the ground. His legs were crossed and he seemed to be deep in thought. On the other hand, Rosweiss seemed tense as she shifted from one foot to the other, looking, not nervous, but more anxious, like she wanted to do something but had nothing to do. Asia, Ais, and Irina haven't arrived yet? Asked Naruto. Doesn't look like it, Kiba said. Naruto sighed. I guess we'll have to wait. He set Kanu on her feet, pretended to not see the disappointment flashing across the girl's eyes, and stood next to Rosweiss. You feeling okay? He asked. I am fine. She flashed him a nervous smile. I just don't like the idea of waiting like this. We don't know what's going on up ahead, but the longer we remain here, the more time the hero faction has to finish whatever their plans for Yasaka are. Yeah. Naruto glanced at Kanu, who had obviously heard what Rosweiss said and was biting her lip. Rosweiss also realized it. She quickly made to reassure the young fox girl. I don't mean anything bad is going to happen. We'll definitely make sure to stop them before they do anything to your mother. Naruto decided to let Rosweiss keep trying to reassure Kanu. It was kind of amusing, and took a seat beside the two. He crossed his legs and entered the seal, though he kept one ear open for Asia, Issei, and Irina. Alongside Kurama, he practiced forming the hand seals for their new jutsu. He had a feeling they would need it. Sorry we're late. Hearing the voice, Naruto returned from the seal and looked up as Asia, Issei, and Irina ran up to the gate. He stood to his feet as Kiba uncrossed his arms and welcomed the trio with a smile. It's good to see you three are safe. We ran into some trouble, but it was nothing we couldn't handle, Issei said. I'm glad to hear that. Naruto clapped Issei on the shoulder. You ready? Of course. Nodding, Naruto looked at everyone. Are all of you ready? You know I am, Kiba said. Rosweiss gained a serious look. I am prepared. Me too. Irina, though a tad pale, wore a determined expression. Asia nodded with a determined expression. I am ready too. I'm also ready, Saji added. Though I have to admit what we're about to do is crazy. Kanu tugged on Naruto's pants. Let's go rescue Mother. Right. Let's get this party started. Leading everyone to the front gate, Naruto was prepared to open it when, with a loud crash, the gates gave off a heavy grating sound as they opened on their own. As the group watched the door open, Kiba gave a wry laugh. It looks like they were waiting for us. Issei frowned. It does seem like they're looking down at us. The gates finished opening. With Naruto in the lead, they wandered through and found themselves standing in a large, flat space. Multiple separate buildings connected to each other by corridors marked this as the Ninomaru Palace, which Naruto, Irina, and Kiba had visited earlier that day. The AI defeated said that Cao was waiting for us at Honmaru Palace, Kiba said as they studied the layout. Then let's not sit on our laurels here, Naruto said, leading the way. They made their way to the Ninomaru Garden, a traditional Japanese landscape garden with a large pond, ornamental stones, and manicured pine trees. They didn't have time to admire the scene. The group quickly made their way through to the Honmaru, passing through a Yaguraman gate, and entering the main circle of defense. There, an imperial residence stood. As Naruto looked at the rows of ancient Japanese eaves, he scanned the area for their enemies. It wasn't hard to spot them. Illuminated by lights, Cao stood in the garden with several other members of the hero faction. They wore the same uniform as before. At the front, Cao rested the Longinus on his shoulder, a grin marring his face. Among this group was a woman. Her beautiful kimono accentuated her mature figure, further enhanced by the golden hair surrounding her like a halo. A pair of fox ears sat on her head. 9 tails jutted out behind her. However, while the woman was undoubtedly a beauty of unfathomable depths, her expressionless face disturbed Naruto. She looked like a puppet. Mother! Kanu cried out as she also spotted the woman. However, not even the cry of her daughter made Yasaka respond. Her eyes remained dark, her face didn't so much as twitch, and her body was completely unresponsive. Kanu bared her fangs at Cao and his group. What have you done to my mother? Cao tilted his head. Didn't I already explain this to you? We wanted your mother to cooperate with us on an experiment. Of course, she remained stubborn, so we were forced to use a more drastic means of securing her cooperation. No. Kanu's horrified look sent ripples of anger through Naruto. Cao tapped his spear against the ground. Not even a moment later, Yasaka released a pained cry as though something was tearing her apart from the inside. Her body changed the next instant. It began glowing as though light was pouring out from inside of her, and her form gradually transformed, growing and expanding as her 9 tails blew up in size. Well, what do you know? She actually does look like a proper Kyuubi. I'm not sure that's a good thing right now. The giant beast stood at least 10 meters tall, its golden fur bristling with every movement. 4 powerful legs rippled with slender muscles. An elegant muzzle held an entrancing beauty that left an impression of power and grace in all who witnessed it. 9 tails waved behind her like writhing tentacles, but even those had a sort of charm and grace to them. Naruto had seen Kurama plenty of times back when he was a 9-tailed fox, so this did not surprise him. However, the others were staring at the massive figure with bulging eyes. Taking a deep breath, Naruto calmed his anger and looked at Cao Cao. The man was grinning. It seems you are finally taking me seriously. What's the point of all this? Asked Naruto with a sweep of his hand. What are you trying to accomplish here? Tapping the shaft of his spear against his shoulder, Cao Cao answered in a casual voice. Kyoto is actually a large-scale magical device surrounded by powerful ley lines. The various famous and historical sites are actually places of incredible power. The ancient yin-yang masters, the Onmyoji, hoped to mold this city into a wellspring of power they could use against invaders. Well, it's precisely because of this that all sorts of existences like yokai have been attracted to this place. Naruto was not as well versed in theory as others, so even if he understood the basics, a lot of this flew over his head. He would admit it. Outside of knowing how to create jutsu, he'd never really tried to expand his knowledge further. So long as it worked, who cared about how it worked? That had been his motto. I'm going to need to study more. That was a depressing thought. Our current pseudo-space is located in the dimensional gap, both infinitesimally close to and infinitely far away from Kyoto at the same time. We've set this place up so the power of the ley lines is now flowing here. As the strongest existence among yokai, the 9-tailed fox is said to be on the level of the Dragon Kings in power, and the relationship between Kyoto and the 9-tailed fox is also intricately linked. That is the reason our plan must be carried out here. As Cao Cao continued, Naruto kept an eye on both him and Yasaka, now a giant 9-tailed fox. Using Kyoto and the power of the 9-tailed fox, we are going to summon Great Red to this place. Summoning him would normally require a Dragon Gate and the power of multiple Dragon Kings, but gathering the Dragon Kings by force is impossible even for God and Buddha. We're using Kyoto and the power of the Kyuubi as a substitute. Naruto closed his eyes for a second. Something about this didn't make sense. Why do you want to summon Great Red? Office left you. She's with me now, in case you haven't realized it. You no longer have any reason to work for her. Didn't I tell you? This isn't for her. It's for us. Cao Cao was still grinning, and for the first time, it was Naruto who felt infuriated. Office might not want anything to do with us anymore, but that doesn't mean we don't have need of her power. I refuse to let her remain with you. That is why I'm going to summon Great Red. I'll agitate this creature of impossible power, and then when it's enraged, I'll retreat and let it KO. Naruto snorted. So that's it. If you can show Office that I don't have the power to help her. You'll say something like, only the hero faction can help you accomplish your goal. That's your plan, right? Something like that, Cao Cao admitted. Of course, there are so many things about what we are doing that are unknown, and even Great Red is an existence that we barely understand. That's why this is an experiment. We wish to learn more, like what effect the Dragon Eater will have on the Apocalypse Dragon. Naruto had never heard the term Dragon Eater before, and from the looks on everyone else's faces, they didn't know what he was talking about either. I don't understand any of this, Naruto admitted with a shrug. And frankly, I don't really care. What I do know is this. You killed that woman against her will, forced her daughter to suffer with worry, and now you're planning to summon a massive being of unknown power just to kill me. That's all I need to know. Naruto pointed at the man. Cao Cao, I'm going to kick Yura from here to the underworld. I'll admit, you're a serious threat, Cao Cao said, though he didn't sound worried. On your own, you could probably kill me. However, I'm not alone, and I don't need to defeat you. I just need to keep you from interfering. It seems talking with them isn't going to get us anywhere, Kiba said. I think we should do our best to eliminate them. Issei nodded. Most of this is beyond me, but I know these guys can't be allowed to complete their experiment or whatever. Let's kick their A. I'm with you too. A light sword appeared in Irina's hand. Saji sighed. It seems like every time you Gremoris get involved, I find myself fighting a battle to the death. Fine. This is also for our fellow students and my friends anyway, so. A surge of power erupted around Saji as numerous black snakes appeared from his arms, legs, and shoulders. They entangled his body. Soon, his body was entirely covered in black serpents, and then a large serpent appeared under his feet. It presented itself to Saji and formed a coil, its body emitting black flames. Saji's left eye turned red and resembled a snake's eye. You guys probably don't know it, but after we all fought to rescue the 3 faction leaders in Greece, I asked Azazel to modify my body so I could access more power. Not only did I find the other parts of Vitra and combine them, but my body was upgraded so I could use my newly acquired power properly. Naruto would admit that Saji's power had increased a lot since the battle in Greece. He felt like an entirely different person. If he had to place Saji on a power scale, he would be stronger than Kiba but weaker than Ise. His power was closer to Ise's than Kiba's, though, which just went to show Naruto how much stronger he was. Vitra, sorry, but I'd like to ask you to lend me your strength. Hi Aldo, I'm going to need your help controlling him. Pull me back if I enter a berserker state. Oh okay, Ise muttered, looking too shocked to do anything but agree. As Saji spoke, black flames appeared all around him, and then the huge serpent next to him spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. Ah, my other self. Where is my prey? Is it that holy spear? Or is it the fox? I'm fine with either one. It's been so long since I was able to come out. Ha ha, I feel great right now. Perfect. Powerful. In fact, why don't I just consume everything here with my black flames? Naruto glanced at Saji and frowned. When he had said that he entered a berserker state, Naruto had been expecting something like Heracles from that Unlimited Blade Works anime Rias had told him about. He had not been expecting the dragon to be capable of speech. You need to calm your down, dragon, Naruto said as he stepped forward. Your opponent is going to be the 9-tailed fox. Your goal is to capture it, not K it. If you do K it, rest assured that I'll tear your body apart even more than God did when he turned you into a sacred gear. The serpent hissed at Naruto. Who the hell are, oh. What's this? I see. You have a great power inside of you. I've never felt something like this before. Even I am aware that the being you're harboring in your body could K me if you unleashed it. Very well. I'll go along with your plan. I don't want to I'm just happy getting to stretch my limbs and have some fun. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Naruto took a calming breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. As he allowed his mind to think more logically than he liked to, he began issuing orders to everyone. Rossweiss, you see the big man over there? The one who is over 2 meters tall. He's your opponent. He's physically powerful and has a high resistance to magic. His sacred gear is called variant detonation. It's the ability to create explosions in time with his physical attacks. You'll have to overpower his magical resistance if you want to defeat him. I think I understand. Please leave him to me. You might also have to deal with Georg, Naruto added. It looks like he's taking part in the ritual to summon Great Red, but don't let your guard down. He's a highly advanced magic user on top of being the wielder of Dimension Lost. Keep your eyes out for him as well. Okay. Kiba, your opponent is Siegfried. I believe you saw his abilities firsthand. His twice critical is a subspecies that allows him to create a dragon arm on his back, and his balance breaker lets him create 4 dragon arms. He can wield all 6 blades in his possession when he's like that, so be careful. I've got it, Kiba said as he created a pair of swords. One of them was dark and released an ominous feeling, a demonic sword. The other weapon was light and pure, a holy sword. I have to be honest, you telling me about his powers and abilities only makes me want to fight him more. Just don't underestimate him. I'd never do that. Eyes. Naruto grabbed the boy's attention. I hate to ask this of you, but I need you to protect me, Asia, and Kanu from Cao Cao and Jean. I'm going to use a jutsu that Kurama and I have been working on, but it will take time to activate. If you can give me just 5 minutes, that should be enough time for me to complete my jutsu. Ise looked a bit shocked at hearing that he'd be fighting against 2 people at once, but perhaps owing to the confidence he'd gained through repeated training, the perverted high school student quickly regained his confidence. Just leave it to me. He thumped his C. I won't let either of them harm you. Naruto nodded. I'm counting on you. Naruto. Irina began as though to ask, what should I be doing? Glancing at her, Naruto smiled and said, you already know what you need to do, right? Zenobia needs help. She's lost and unsure, and as her best friend and partner, you need to make her see reason. I'm leaving her to you. In that moment, Irina's eyes sparkled like gemstones as a healthy blush spread across her face. A smile like a flower blooming underneath morning rays of sunlight caused her to look even more radiant than usual. She looked so happy that even the tense situation they were in appeared to be insignificant to her. Yes, she said with more enthusiasm than he'd ever heard from her. As Naruto laid out his battle plans to the Gremory peerage and Saji, Cao stood with other members of the hero faction and the still emotionless Yasaka. It seems I really did underestimate you, he was speaking to Naruto. Ever since our first meeting, I had assumed you were just an abnormally powerful idiot, but that's not true at all, is it? You're also capable of acting like a real leader. You gathered information about our strengths and weaknesses and created a plan to deal with each of us. That Rias Gremory was certainly lucky when she found you. In a few years, you'll probably attain the rank of high-class devil and create your own peerage. The old Maru and that idiot Loki were fools to think the three faction leaders were the only threats. Are you flattering me? Asked Naruto. Not at all. Cao shook his head. I am merely stating the facts as I see them. Naruto snorted. Cao. Siegfried glanced at his leader. How would you like to proceed? Well, I believe we should just start the experiment and see what happens. Cao started tapping his spear against the ground, and the QB leader glowed even brighter than before. Georg, it is time. Focus your power into the force nodes of the nine-tailed fox and prepare to summon Great Red. I understand. The user of Dimension Lost reached out with a hand, and what seemed to be an endless number of magic circles appeared around him. They spun in a rapid circle around him. Naruto couldn't make heads or tails of the magical scripts, but Rosweiss could. This boy is quite something. Rosweiss narrowed her eyes. Just at a glance, I can see Norse, demonic, fallen angel, white magic, black magic, and even fairy magic spells. There is an incredibly diverse and wide array of scripts in there. It seems you were right, Naruto. That boy is an incredibly powerful sorcerer. He might be too busy to fight right now, but don't take your eyes off him, Naruto said. I promise to keep at least one eye on him at all times. As she spoke, a magic circle appeared above her palm and a small eye suddenly materialized from within it. The eye quickly darted away. Naruto assumed it was somehow linked to Rosweiss and would let her keep an eye on Georg while she battled Heracles. A magic circle far larger than anything else appeared on the ground around Yasaka. Naruto didn't know what it was. However, as the magic circle appeared, Yasaka's pupils became dilated. A dangerous light had entered her eyes, and her golden fur was standing on end. The magic circle and the S for summoning Great Red are ready. Now we just have to see if Great Red will take the bait and come here. We're actually quite lucky. We have both a Dragon King and a Heavenly Dragon present as a bonus. My apologies, Cao County, but I'll likely be too occupied with operating the magic circles to fight, Georg said. It's fine. That is what you are here for. Cao waved his hand in acknowledgement. Leonardo and the others are battling against the allied forces outside. They won't be able to buy us much time, but I'm hoping it will be enough. Reports have stated that not only have Azazel and Seraphal entered the fray, but members of the Seraphim have arrived. It seems like things have gotten interesting, Heracles said as he and Jean stepped forward. They have indeed. Cao smiled as he directed his attention to Naruto. Now let's see who among us will prove victorious. Us or them. Is everyone ready? Naruto asked his companions. As he received a chorus of affirmatives, he took a deep breath and sat down, crossing his hands and getting ready to connect with Kurama. In that case, you know what you have to do, so let's do it. Right. Everyone shouted at the same time and rushed off toward their respective opponents. Only Issei stood back. He had Asia quickly promote him to knight before he darted forward to take on both Cao and Jean. Canoe, Asia, please stay behind me, Naruto instructed. But, Canoe began. Do not worry. We will rescue your mother. He smiled in her direction. But I won't do it at the cost of your safety. Please stay behind me. Everything will be okay. Oh, okay. Canoe nodded and moved behind him. Asia also moved behind him, though unlike the young Kitsune, she was keeping an eye on the battle. As a healer, she'd be using her ranged healing, which had extended to several dozen meters, to heal their allies when they got injured. Are you ready, Kurama? No. I still can't believe we're doing this. We're doing this. Believe it. Ugh. Please don't say that ever again. Sorry. Naruto closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then extended his chakra into the seal. At the same time, Kurama's massively overwhelming chakra surged from the seal and latched onto his, creating something like a tunnel or even a vortex between them as they synchronized their chakras. The two beings from another dimension brought their hands together at the same time. As the sounds of battle echoed all around them, the two quietly began forming hand seals. Devil Ninja. Xenovia. Irina swooped down from the sky, a light sword in her hand. Xenavia raised Durandal to meet her attack. Their two weapons clashed together with a thunderous explosion of energy, causing the ground underneath Xenavia's feet to crack. Irina gritted her teeth as she pushed her weapon against the massive blade in her friend's hand. However, as expected of a holy sword on the same level as the original Excalibur, Durandal was more than able to fend her off. You should know, that sort of attack won't work on me. With a loud shout, Xenavia strained her muscles and cleaved right through the light sword in Irina's hand. An explosion of energy burst from the blade. It would have hit Irina, but she moved out of the way quickly. Coming back in, Irina began swinging her blade in a series of S and thrusts at speeds that Xenavia couldn't match. All the other girl could do was use the flat end of her blade to block the attacks. Narrowing her eyes, Irina pushed her muscles to work harder and increased the speed of her thrusts. Over and over she attacked. Xenavia slowly lost ground. She stumbled backward as Irina swung. It seems I'm not the only one who's gotten stronger, Xenavia muttered as she took several steps back. Irina smiled. I've been training with Naruto and Kiba. They've helped polish my sword skills and increased my stamina. That's so. Xenavia shifted her shoulders a bit as she grabbed Durandal with both hands. It seems you've become quite fond of Naruto. Back when I was in the church, all you would ever talk about was Issei, but now you're talking about Naruto like he's all you care about. Despite herself, Irina blushed. That's because. Using her embarrassment as a distraction, Xenavia rushed in and began swinging Durandal at speeds a blade that size shouldn't normally be capable of moving. The sword was like a blur, a streak of light. Despite being caught off guard, Irina responded to her opponent's attacks. She increased the potency of her light sword. Now condensed many times over, she met Xenavia's attacks, not head-on, but with subtle deception. Durandal screamed down from overhead. Irina angled her blade so the massive holy sword slid along the edge and S into the ground. An explosion caused the ground to rumble, but she ignored that and spun around as Xenavia swung her blade from the ground into a vertical S. Again, she angled her sword, let Durandal slide along it, and then brought the blade over her head so it would miss her. Leaping back to gain some distance, Irina threw several light spears as a distraction. All of them were blocked by Durandal. That was fine. Ascending back into the air, she created several halo-shaped projectiles, which she threw at Xenavia, peppering the girl over and over. Of course, this was Xenavia. Irina didn't expect her attacks to work, and just as she expected, the young woman with blue hair swung her blade, unleashing a powerful crescent wave of energy that destroyed all of her attacks in a single swing. Did you really think you would be able to defeat me like that, Irina? Asked Xenavia as she raised her blade over her head. Don't make me laugh. You might have become an angel, but you aren't the only one who's become more powerful. Let me show you the power I gained while working with the hero faction. Raising Durandal above her head, Xenavia furrowed her brows in concentration. Irina felt a surge of energy come from Durandal. Her eyes widened as large streams of white energy leaked off the blade. However, the streamers, like plumes of steam rising from the surface of a boiling lake, soon gathered and became condensed. It engulfed the sword. Then, as though Xenavia had suddenly turned up the power, the energy grew upward. As she stared at the massive weapon, which looked like a 15-meter-tall blade, Irina could only gulp. Let's see what you can do against this. With another loud shout, Xenavia brought Durandal down faster than Irina imagined possible. The air howled as it was rent. Irina, desperate to get out of the way, moved quickly. She flapped her wings and swerved to the left. However, Even though she managed to evade the massive sword, the force that weapon left as it see. A deafening sound not unlike the sonic boom of someone breaking the sound barrier rocked Irina's ears, forcing her to cover them. Light blasted out from where Durandal struck the earth. Irina covered her face with her arms as the blinding light seared her vision. She would have closed her eyes, but the massive explosion had caused an updraft of energy that tried to knock her out of the sky. She had to put all her focus on flapping her wings, and she needed to at least see where she was going. When the energy eased down, Irina looked back at the ground. She gawped. The area she'd been floating near was now a large crater. It must have been at least 15 meters across. What's more, the ground around the crater was cracked and split. I didn't think Xenavia could get this powerful. Xenavia was a power fighter, so of course that meant she was physically imposing and could unleash a lot of power. At the same time, she was still human. There were limitations that a human could not exceed. I see you dodged my attack, Xenavia murmured as she stuck Durandal's blade into the ground and wiped the sweat from her forehead. Irina narrowed her eyes. You should have known I would dodge such an obvious attack. That attack looked like it cost you a lot of stamina. I've got stamina to spare. Having removed the sweat from her brow, Xenavia picked up her blade again and held it in a ready position. Now, come at me. Irina didn't hesitate to rush forward. She traveled over the ground on fleet feet. It almost looked like she was flying, especially with her wings flapping, but she was actually using a technique called skimming. The flap of her wings was being used to accelerate the speed of her run, pushing her forward. Hyaaa. As her light soared into Xenavia's Durandal, Irina tried her best to push the other girl back. Thanks to the speed she'd built up, momentum was on her side, and Xenavia skidded across the ground as Irina kept pushing against her. The blue-haired girl's teeth were gnashed together as she struggled against the light sword. Not good enough. It's not enough. With a concerted effort, Xenavia pushed Irina back after several seconds of a stalemate, but rather than simply letting herself stumble backward, Irina sent several light spears at her opponent. Xenavia dispelled them with a swing of Durandal. However, as she did, Irina noticed something about her movements. The growing sluggish. The longer they fought, the less energy Xenavia was able to put into her swings. When this battle had first started, Xenavia had been swinging her sword so fast it was only thanks to her powers as an angel that she could keep up. Durandal was still being swung quite fast. However, the difference between then and now was like the difference between an Olympic athlete and high school student. You're getting tired, Irina observed. Shut up, Xenavia muttered. I can do this all day. Even though she said that, the more they fought, the less stamina Xenavia had. She also didn't unleash that massive attack again. Either that meant she was saving that attack for a time when she thought it would hit, or she couldn't use that attack anymore because it required too much power. They shuffled their feet across the garden that was their battleground. A good portion of the garden had been destroyed. Craters and scars littered the ground. Given how rugged the terrain now was, Irina knew she would have to be careful to avoid tripping or getting her foot caught in a crater or trench. A lull entered the battle after soon. Xenavia and Irina stood several meters from each other. While her breathing still remained light, her opponent was breathing a lot more heavily, shoulders heaving as she sucked in oxygen. Xenavia, Irina began. Do we really have to keep fighting? Can't we just stop? Looking away from Irina, Xenavia grimaced. I can't stop now. I've already decided to join the Cows Brigade. I can't afford to let my resolve be so half-hearted. Taking a deep breath, Xenavia switched to a one-handed grip, and then pulled out another holy sword from a dimensional rift. It looked like a replica of Excalibur Destruction. Now gripping two massive blades in each hand, the blue-haired girl stared at Irina with a hard expression. If you want me to stop, then you're going to have to stop me. I see. Irina finally realized what was going on here. Xenavia had always been a hard-headed and stubborn person. That was the entire reason she'd gotten into that massive argument with the church, left, and joined the Cows Brigade. Once she made a decision, she would always see it through to the end, even when that decision brought her nothing but pain. Xenavia is asking me to stop her. No, she is begging me to stop her. As these thoughts crossed her mind, Xenavia rushed forward, Excalibur Destruction and Durandal scraping against the ground, creating sparks. I understand now, Xenavia. Irina readied her light sword as Xenavia's charge brought the other girl ever closer. 10 meters. 5 meters. 2 meters. I'll definitely be the one to stop you. When she reached the 1 meter mark, Zenevia raised both of her swords, prepared to bring them down on her former partner and friend. Irina reacted quickly. Dispelling her light sword, she shot forward before Zenevia could attack. She was already in Zenevia's guard. Even if the girl swung her swords, they would miss. Now face to face, Irina could see the surprise in Zenevia's eyes. However, she could also see the pain, the hurt, the sense of betrayal, and loss. Her friend was lost and hurt and didn't know what to do. The Cows Brigade had likely capitalized on those emotions and convinced her to join them. I won't let things stay like this. Irina wrapped her arms around Zenevia and pulled the other girl into a tight embrace. Zenevia froze. The hands that had been raised to bring down her sword slowly lowered, and then a loud clank signified the two holy swords falling to the ground. I'm sorry for not being able to help you before, Irina apologized. But I'm here now. I won't leave you to suffer alone. I was so lost, Zenevia's voice was choked. I know. I didn't know what to do. I know, Irina, It's okay. Irina hugged her friend tighter. Everything is going to be okay now. I'm not going to let you go through that again. Several seconds passed before, with a slowness that made her seem reluctant, Zenevia wrapped her arms around Irina. She hugged the other girl tightly as several tears flowed down her cheeks. Irina felt the tears fall against her clothing, but she ignored how her clothes were getting wet and let her friend cry out all of the sorrow, frustration, and hopelessness that had been eating away at her since learning of God's deaths. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.